Deep in the void between the Carina and Vela arms of the galaxy, the mining vessel Helios Dawn drifted through the star-speckled darkness like a water strider on a cosmic pond. Its massive collection arrays stretched out for kilometers, gathering hydrogen and trace elements from the thin soup of space. Chief Engineer Sarah Chen stood at the ship's observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the distant smudge of light that marked their next collection point. "Another anomaly in the lateral sensors, Chief," called out Marcus Rodriguez from his station. His fingers danced across the holographic interface, bringing up a cascade of readings that made little sense. "That's the third one this shift." Sarah moved to his station, her magnetized boots clicking against the deck plates. The reading lasted barely a second, a quantum fluctuation that shouldn't exist in natural space. "Plot them all. I want to see if there's a pattern." The holographic display expanded, showing their collection route over the past week. The anomalies appeared random at first glance, but Sarah had spent 20 years reading the void between stars. Nothing out here was truly random. There, she pointed to the subtle curve in the data points. "They're forming an arc. Calculate the center point." Marcus input the commands, and the computer traced the invisible circle. At its center lay what appeared to be empty space, though Sarah knew better. Out here, emptiness was an illusion. "Get me Captain Roth," she said, not taking her eyes off the display. "And wake up Dr. Patel. She'll want to see this." Within minutes, the observation deck had transformed from its usual quiet efficiency into a hub of activity. Captain Elena Roth, her silver hair tied back in a severe bun, studied the data with the intensity of a hawk tracking prey. Dr. Aisha Patel, the ship's xenoarchaeologist, looked like she'd thrown on her uniform while running, which she probably had. "It's artificial," Dr. Patel declared, her voice tinged with barely contained excitement. "These quantum signatures match patterns we found in other ancient sites. But this is orders of magnitude more complex." Captain Roth's expression remained neutral, but Sarah caught the slight tightening around her eyes. "We're a mining vessel, Doctor. We're not equipped for first contact or archaeological expeditions." "With respect, Captain," Sarah interjected, "we might be the best equipped ship in the sector. Our collection arrays can be modified to act as quantum sensors. Whatever's out there, it's trying to communicate." The captain turned to her chief engineer. "You're certain? The pattern is too precise to be natural. And it's getting stronger. Whatever it is, I think it's responding to our presence." Dr. Patel practically bounced on her toes. "This could be it, Elena. The proving ground of my theories about quantum-based civilizations. We have to investigate." Captain Roth studied the data for a long moment before straightening. "Mr. Rodriguez, plot a course to the center of that arc." "Chief Chen, I want those arrays modified within the hour." "Doctor, prepare your equipment. But remember, at the first sign of danger, we pull back. The Helios Dawn may be sturdy, but she's still just a mining vessel." The next 6 hours were a blur of activity. Sarah's engineering team worked frantically to repurpose the collection arrays, turning tools meant to gather hydrogen into makeshift quantum sensors. Dr. Patel flitted between stations, her expertise in xenoarchaeology proving surprisingly useful in detecting artificial patterns in seemingly natural phenomena. As they approached the calculated center point, the quantum fluctuations increased in frequency and complexity. The ship's computers struggled to process the flood of data, but patterns began to emerge: mathematical sequences, geometric progressions, prime numbers. "It's beautiful," Dr. Patel whispered, watching the streams of data flow across her screen. "They're not just sending signals, they're sending art. Look at the way the quantum states interweave." Sarah understood. Even in the raw data, there was an elegance to the patterns that spoke of intelligence and purpose. This wasn't just communication, it was expression. The Helios Dawn came to a stop at the designated coordinates. To the naked eye, there was nothing but empty space. But the sensors told a different story. Quantum fluctuations surrounded them in a complex dance of information. Energy spike. Marcus called out. Something's forming. Before their eyes, space itself seemed to fold. Colors that had no right to exist in vacuum blossomed like aurora, forming shapes that hurt to look at directly. When the display cleared, they found themselves facing what could only be described as a door in space, a perfect circle of absolute darkness ringed by swirling quantum effects. "My God," Captain Roth breathed. "What have we found?" Dr. Patel was already recording everything. "It's a quantum gateway. My papers theorized their existence, but to actually see one. This technology is beyond anything humanity has achieved." Sarah studied the readings from the modified arrays. "The structure is stable, but it's waiting. I think it needs a response from us." "A response?" The captain's voice was sharp. "What kind of response?" "The patterns they sent," Sarah explained, moving to the main console. "They were sharing their mathematics, their art. I think they want to know if we can understand it, if we're intelligent enough to be worth talking to." Dr. Patel nodded eagerly. "Yes. It's a test. Many ancient civilizations left similar challenges for potential contactees. We need to prove we can speak their language." Captain Roth looked between her two officers. "Can we do it? Can we communicate?" Sarah's fingers were already moving across the console. The patterns they sent followed clear mathematical principles. "If we can mirror those principles but add our own variation, show them we understand but can also create." She input a sequence of commands, reprogramming the collection arrays to emit their own quantum fluctuations. Instead of simply copying the alien patterns, she integrated them into a Fibonacci sequence, then mapped it to the mathematical constant pi. It was mathematics as art, humanity's contribution to the cosmic conversation. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the quantum gateway pulsed, its ring of energy shifting through impossible colors. New patterns emerged, more complex than before but containing recognizable elements of what Sarah had sent. Dr. Patel laughed in delight. "They're responding. They're incorporating our mathematics into their patterns. This is actual communication with a quantum-based intelligence." The gateway's center began to clear, the absolute darkness giving way to a view of something. A vast structure became visible, its architecture following the same mathematical principles as the quantum patterns. It was a city, or perhaps a ship, built by beings who thought in quantum states and wrote their history in the fabric of spacetime itself. "Captain," Sarah said, her voice steady despite her racing heart, "I think we've just been invited in." Elena Roth stood from her chair, her expression a mixture of awe and determination. "Well, ladies and gentlemen, it seems we're about to make history. Chief Chen, secure all systems for quantum transit. Dr. Patel, prepare your first contact protocols. Mr. Rodriguez, maintain our position relative to the gateway." As the crew rushed to comply with their orders, Sarah took a moment to stare at the gateway. In all her years of deep space mining, she'd dreamed of finding something extraordinary in the void between stars. But this was beyond anything she'd imagined. The Helios Dawn had set out to harvest hydrogen from the space between spiral arms. Instead, they'd found what might be the greatest discovery in human history. As Sarah returned to her station to prepare for whatever lay beyond that quantum gateway, she couldn't help but smile. Sometimes, it seemed, the emptiness of space wasn't so empty after all. The quantum gateway swallowed the Helios Dawn in a cascade of impossible colors. For a fraction of a second that felt like eternity, Sarah Chen experienced reality as pure mathematics, her consciousness stretched across probability waves, each thought branching into infinite variations. Then, with a sensation like a rubber band snapping back into shape, they emerged. "Status report." Captain Roth's voice cut through the disorientation. "All systems operational," Sarah managed, checking her readings. "The transit affected our quantum sensors, but they're recalibrating, my God. Through the observation deck's windows, they beheld a structure that defied conventional physics. Massive crystalline formations floated in perfect geometric patterns, each one pulsing with internal light that shifted through colors beyond human perception. The crystals formed a vast spherical array that must have been kilometers across, yet somehow it all felt alive, conscious. The energy readings are off the scale, Marcus reported, his voice hushed with awe. But there's a pattern to it. It's not random, this whole structure is one massive quantum computer. Dr. Patel was practically vibrating with excitement. Not just a computer, look at the geometric progression of the crystals. This is a city, a ship, and a living entity all at once. The beings who built this didn't just master quantum mechanics, they became one with it. As if in response to her words, points of light began to coalesce in the space before them. They moved with purpose, forming complex three-dimensional patterns that shifted and flowed like schools of bioluminescent fish. They're trying to communicate, Sarah realized, studying the quantum sensor readings. The light patterns correspond to quantum states, they're speaking in superpositions. Captain Roth turned to her officers. Can we respond? Find a way to translate? Sarah and Dr. Patel exchanged looks. Maybe, Sarah said slowly. Our collection arrays can manipulate quantum states. If we can map their patterns to a mathematical base. And correlate it with known linguistic structures, Dr. Patel added. All communication, no matter how alien, must follow certain logical principles. They worked frantically, Sarah repurposing the ship's systems while Dr. Patel applied her xenolinguistic expertise. The light beings waited patiently, occasionally sending new patterns that seemed designed to help, simple mathematical concepts followed by more complex ideas. Hours passed in a blur of coding and theoretical linguistics. Sarah's fingers flew across her console, programming the collection arrays to emit precisely controlled quantum states that mimicked the aliens' light language. Dr. Patel fed linguistic algorithms into the system, searching for patterns that could bridge the gap between human thought and quantum consciousness. There! Sarah exclaimed as a new pattern emerged from their efforts. We've mapped their basic numerical system. They don't think in binary or decimal, they use quantum states as numerical values. A single digit in their system can exist in multiple states simultaneously. Dr. Patel leaned forward eagerly. Yes, and look at the way they structure these patterns. It's not linear like human languages. They're communicating in four-dimensional concepts, time is built into their very grammar. The light beings responded to their attempts, their patterns shifting to match the simplified structure Sarah and Dr. Patel had created. A crude translation system began to take shape, human mathematics and logic meeting quantum consciousness halfway. First contact, Captain Roth murmured, watching the exchange of light patterns. But what are they trying to tell us? As if in answer, the crystal structure around them pulsed with new energy. The translation system they'd cobbled together began processing the incoming data. Words appeared on their screens, approximate translations of quantum concepts into human language. Welcome awakeners / patterns recognize patterns / time sleep ends. Time sleep? Marcus frowned at the translation. Are they saying they were in some kind of stasis? Dr. Patel's eyes widened. Of course. The quantum fluctuations we detected, they weren't just a test. The entire structure was in a state of quantum suspension, waiting for a species advanced enough to detect and respond to their signals. The light beings' patterns grew more complex, testing the limits of their translation system. New messages formed. Danger approaches / entropy accelerates / help needed. Sarah studied the quantum readings with growing concern. Captain, the crystal structure, its quantum coherence is destabilizing. Whatever stasis system they used, it's breaking down now that they're awakening. Can we help them stabilize it? Captain Roth asked. Maybe, Sarah said, her mind racing through possibilities. Our collection arrays were designed to manipulate quantum states of hydrogen. If we could adapt them, create a kind of quantum scaffold. Yes/understand/teach-learn together. The light being's patterns shifted again, this time projecting complex technical diagrams into the space around them. Sarah recognized elements of quantum engineering far beyond human technology, but the underlying principles were clear enough. "They're showing us how to modify our equipment," she explained, already making calculations. "We can use our arrays to support their quantum structure while they complete their awakening process." "But Captain, this will mean giving them access to our systems. We'll have to trust them." Captain Roth studied the flowing patterns of light, watching as they formed increasingly complex but recognizable shapes, double helixes, atomic structures, mathematical constants that bridged the gap between their species. "They could have destroyed us the moment we emerged from that gateway," she said finally. "Instead, they're asking for help and offering to teach us. Sometimes trust has to start somewhere." She straightened in her chair. "Do it." Sarah nodded and began the delicate process of integrating their systems with the quantum structure. Dr. Patel worked beside her, improving their translation algorithms in real time as the light beings shared more of their language. As the systems merged, new understanding flowed between human and quantum minds. The light beings shared glimpses of their history, a civilization that had evolved beyond physical form, transforming themselves into beings of pure quantum energy. They had seeded the galaxy with gateways, waiting in stasis for other intelligent species to find them. But they hadn't expected to sleep so long. Now their ancient systems were failing, and they needed human innovation, the ability to think in new ways, to solve problems with limited resources, to help them survive their awakening. Through the observation deck windows, Sarah watched as the crystal structure's light stabilized, supported by the Helios Dawn's modified collection arrays. Human determination and ingenuity meeting quantum consciousness and ancient wisdom. As she worked, she couldn't help but smile at the irony. They'd come looking for hydrogen to power human civilization, and instead found beings of pure energy who needed humanity's help to survive. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all. The Helios Dawn's engines strained as Sarah Chen pushed them beyond their design specifications. Around the ship, the massive crystal structure shuddered with quantum instabilities, sections of it phasing in and out of normal spacetime. "We're losing coherence in sectors 7 through 12. Marcus called out, his hands flying over the controls. "The quantum scaffold can't keep up with the cascade failures." Sarah gritted her teeth, watching as her jerry-rigged quantum support system struggled to maintain stability. The light beings, who had begun calling themselves the Lumini, flowed through their ancient home in increasingly agitated patterns, their own attempts to control the deterioration failing. Critical mass approaches/time fractures spreading/solution needed. The translation appeared on their screens as pulses of desperate light filled the chamber. Dr. Patel worked frantically to keep their communication system functioning as quantum distortions threatened to overwhelm it. The problem isn't just the stasis systems failing, Sarah realized, studying the readings. It's time itself. Their quantum state preserved them by taking them partially out of normal time flow. Now that they're awakening, thousands of years of temporal entropy are catching up all at once. Captain Roth leaned forward in her chair. "Can we slow it down? Give them more time to adjust?" "Not with our current setup." Sarah's mind raced through possibilities. "Unless." "Dr. Patel, what was that theory you mentioned about quantum consciousness?" The xenoarchaeologist looked up from her station. "The distributed consciousness theory. The Lumini don't exist as individual entities, they're a quantum field sharing a collective consciousness across multiple probability states." "Exactly." Sarah turned to her console, fingers flying. "We've been trying to stabilize the physical structure, but what if we stabilize their consciousness instead? Give them an anchor point in our timeline? Understanding/yes/bridge between states." The Lumini's patterns shifted, forming complex diagrams that merged with Sarah's calculations. They weren't just agreeing, they were improving on her idea, showing how human technology could interface with their quantum nature. "We'll need to convert the entire ship into a quantum processor," Sarah explained, already making modifications. "Route everything through the collection arrays, use our computer core as a temporal anchor point. It's going to overload our systems, but—" "Do it," Captain Roth ordered. "Better to burn out trying than watch an entire civilization die." The next hours were a blur of desperate improvisation. Sarah and her engineering team transformed the Helios Dawn from a mining vessel into something entirely new, a hybrid of human technology and quantum engineering. Dr. Patel's expertise in xenoarchaeology proved invaluable as they integrated elements of ancient Lumini design with their modern systems. The ship's hull groaned as space-time distortions pulled at its structure. Warning alerts blared from every system, but they pushed forward. The Lumini worked alongside them, their patterns weaving through the ship's networks, strengthening connections and adding their own quantum processes to the hybrid system. "Power spike," Marcus warned. "We're approaching critical overload." Sarah watched the readings climb toward inevitable system failure. They needed something more, some way to handle the massive energy buildup. Then she saw it, a solution so obvious she almost laughed. The hydrogen. She quickly accessed the ship's cargo controls. "We're a mining ship, we have tanks full of hydrogen meant for fusion reactors. If we can channel the quantum energy through it." "Yes/catalyst/bridge complete." The Lumini understood immediately. Their patterns swept through the hydrogen storage systems, transforming the simple element at the quantum level. The ship shuddered as billions of hydrogen atoms simultaneously existed in multiple quantum states, creating a buffer between normal spacetime and the luminized quantum realm. "It's working!" Dr. Patel exclaimed. "The temporal distortions are stabilizing. They're finding their way into our time stream." Through the observation windows, they watched in awe as the crystal structure stopped its erratic fluctuations. The luminized light patterns grew steadier, more controlled, as they adjusted to existing within normal time. "Balance achieved/gratitude/new path opens." But Sarah frowned at her readings. "The stabilization is only temporary. We've given them time, but the underlying problem remains. Their quantum structure wasn't designed to exist in normal spacetime indefinitely." Captain Roth studied the flowing patterns of their alien allies. "How long do we have?" "Days, maybe weeks at most." Sarah ran calculations through their hybrid systems. "We've created a bridge between their quantum state and our reality, but it's going to take more than one mining vessel's worth of jury-rigged equipment to make it permanent." Dr. Patel looked up from her translations. "They're saying something about their other outposts, similar structures scattered across the galaxy. If we could reach them, link them together." "One problem at a time," Captain Roth said firmly. "Right now, we focus on keeping our friends alive and our ship in one piece. Chief Chen, what do you need?" Sarah was already making lists in her head. "We'll need to strengthen the quantum scaffold, find a way to process the temporal feedback more efficiently. And..." She paused, a new idea forming. "Captain, remember those strange mineral deposits we found in the Carina Arm last month? The ones with unusual quantum properties?" "Yes, but what?" The captain's eyes widened as she understood. "You think they could help stabilize the bridge? If we can get to them in time." Sarah looked at the swirling patterns of the Lumini, now inextricably linked with their ship's systems. "But we'll have to move the entire structure. I'm not sure the gateway can handle that much quantum mass. New paths/old ways/together find." The luminized message appeared as their patterns shifted into what Sarah had come to recognize as their equivalent of determination. They weren't giving up, and neither would humanity. "Plot a course to those deposits," Captain Roth ordered. "We'll find a way to move them, or we'll bring the deposits to them." Either way, we're not losing an entire civilization on our watch. As the crew rushed to comply with their orders, Sarah took a moment to appreciate the absurdity of their situation. A simple mining mission had turned into first contact, then a desperate rescue operation, and now they were about to attempt something unprecedented, moving an ancient quantum structure through space while maintaining a delicate bridge between realities. But looking at the seamless way human and Lumini technologies now work together, she felt a surge of hope. Perhaps this was why the Lumini had waited so long to be found. Not just for a species advanced enough to detect them, but for one stubborn enough to try the impossible. The Helios Dawn hummed with power as its hybrid systems prepared for their greatest challenge yet. In the space around them, the Lumini's patterns danced with anticipation and trust in their human allies. The real test was about to begin. The journey to the Carina arm had never seemed longer. The Helios Dawn pushed through space with its extraordinary cargo, an ancient quantum civilization balanced between existence and entropy. Sarah Chen hadn't slept in 36 hours, monitoring the delicate hybrid systems that kept the Lumini stable. Energy fluctuation in the starboard arrays, Marcus reported, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. Compensating. The quantum scaffold they'd built shimmered with strain. Moving the entire Lumini structure had proved impossible through conventional space. Instead, they'd developed a sort of quantum bubble, keeping the ancient crystalline city in a state of partial existence, tethered to their ship through the modified collection arrays. Danger approaches / gravity waves increase / time bends. The Lumini's warning flashed across their screens moments before the sensors lit up. Sarah's heart sank as she read the data. Captain, we have a problem. The quantum properties of those mineral deposits we detected? They're not natural. Captain Roth turned sharply in her chair. Explain. The readings we're getting. Sarah brought up the long-range scans. They're identical to the quantum signature of the Lumini's gateway. Someone or something has been harvesting their technology. Dr. Patel leaned forward, studying the data. Not harvesting, weaponizing. Look at the energy patterns. They're using the quantum crystals to create localized temporal distortions. Old enemies rise / entropy seekers / void makers. The Lumini's patterns turn dark, almost black, their usual flowing movements becoming sharp and agitated. Through their improved translation system, images began to form, memories of an ancient war fought across quantum states. They showed another species, one that had found the Lumini's gateways millennia ago but chose to destroy rather than communicate. The Void Makers, Dr. Patel translated, her voice grim. They discovered that the quantum crystals could be used to create artificial black holes, temporal weapons that devour spacetime itself. Sarah's mind raced through calculations. That's why this sector's so empty. It's not natural. Those weapons leave behind quantum scarring, areas where spacetime is too damaged to support normal matter. And now we're heading straight for their mining operation, Captain Roth concluded. She stood, her expression hardening. Options? Before anyone could respond, space itself seemed to twist around them. A massive shape emerged from the darkness, a vessel that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its hull was studded with crystalline structures that pulsed with sickly energy. Void Maker ship. Marcus called out. They're charging their temporal weapons. Defend / protect / unite strength. The Lumini's patterns surged through the Helios Dawn systems, merging more deeply with their hybrid technology. Sarah felt their consciousness brush against her mind through the neural interface she used to control the collection arrays. They were offering something, a solution, but one that would require complete trust between their species. They want to merge our technologies fully, she explained, fingers flying over her console. Use our ship as a focus point for their quantum abilities. But it would mean letting them into our systems entirely, Captain Roth finished. No safeguards, no barriers. Another temporal distortion rocked the ship. On their sensors, they could see the Void Maker vessel preparing to fire again. Their first shot had been a warning, the next would tear them apart. "Do it," the captain ordered. Sarah took a deep breath and opened all channels. The Lumini flowed into every system of the Helios Dawn, their quantum consciousness merging with human technology in ways that defied physics. The ship's hull began to glow with impossible colors as space itself bent around them. The Void Makers fired their temporal weapon, a beam of concentrated entropy that should have reduced them to scattered atoms across 1,000 years. But where human shields would have failed, human innovation merged with quantum consciousness prevailed. The Helios Dawn didn't just dodge the attack, it absorbed it, the Lumini using their mastery of quantum states to transform the temporal energy into something new. Sarah watched in awe as the ship's hybrid systems reconfigured themselves, learning and adapting in real time. "Return fire?" Marcus asked, his hands hovering over weapons that had been transformed into something far beyond their original design. "No," Sarah said, understanding flowing between her mind and the Lumini consciousness. "We do something they'll never expect. We create instead of destroy." Working together, human and Lumini consciousness shaped the absorbed energy. The quantum crystals they'd been seeking weren't just useful for stabilizing the Lumini, they were seeds, meant to heal spacetime rather than wound it. The Void Makers had perverted their purpose, but now they would be used as intended. The Helios Dawn released a pulse of pure quantum potential. Where it touched the damaged space around them, reality began to heal. The Void Makers' temporal weapons flickered and died as the quantum scarring they depended on faded away. Balance returns / life flows / harmony restores. The enemy vessel tried to retreat, but the wave of healing energy caught it first. Its weaponized crystals resonated with their original purpose, transforming from tools of destruction into catalysts for renewal. The ship hung dead in space, its temporal weapons reduced to inert mineral. But they weren't finished. Sarah felt the Lumini's excitement as they realized the full potential of their merged technologies. The quantum seeds they'd sought could do more than stabilize a single quantum civilization, they could heal all the damage the Void Makers had caused, restore entire sectors of space to habitability. "We're detecting quantum signatures," Marcus reported with amazement. "Dozens of them, all across the sector." The Void Makers didn't destroy everything, some of the Lumini gateways survived. Dr. Patel's translation system was flooded with new data as the Lumini shared their vision of the future. A galaxy where quantum and physical reality existed in harmony, where human innovation and determination merged with ancient wisdom to create something entirely new. Captain Roth smiled, watching as space itself seemed to come alive around them. "Well, it seems our mining mission has turned into something quite different. Chief Chen, how do you feel about a change in career?" "I think we're about to become gardeners instead of miners." Sarah looked at her hybrid controls, feeling the gentle flow of Lumini consciousness working in perfect sync with human technology. "I think, Captain, we're about to help write a whole new chapter in the story of both our species." Around them, space bloomed with possibility. 6 months after their first encounter with the Lumini, the Helios Dawn was almost unrecognizable. The once simple mining vessel had evolved into something unprecedented, a hybrid of human engineering and quantum consciousness that served as both a ship and a mobile restoration center for damaged spacetime. Sarah Chen stood at her modified control station, watching as another quantum seed bloomed into reality. The crystalline structure expanded like a flower opening to starlight, its facets refracting colors that existed somewhere between light and thought. "Quantum resonance stable," Marcus reported. "That's the 5th gateway we've restored this month." Through their neural interfaces, Sarah felt the Lumini's satisfaction ripple across the ship's systems. In the months since their merger, communication had evolved far beyond their original translation protocols. Human and quantum minds now worked in seamless partnership, each contributing their unique strengths to their shared mission. Healing spread / void scars fade / new paths open. "The temporal mapping is complete," Dr. Patel announced, her station now a complex array of quantum imaging systems. We've identified 37 more damaged sectors, but look at this. She brought up a galactic display where points of light pulsed in a complex pattern. The restored gateways are creating a cascade effect. Each one we repair strengthens the others. Captain Roth studied the map with satisfaction. The Void Makers never understood what they were dealing with, did they? They saw weapons where they should have seen seeds. The luminized patterns shifted in agreement. Their ancient quantum network hadn't just been for communication or travel, it was meant to maintain the very fabric of spacetime, creating harmony between quantum and physical reality. The Void Makers' attempts to weaponize it had nearly destroyed that balance, but together, humans and Lumini were restoring what was lost. Sarah's console chimed with an incoming transmission. "Captain, we're receiving a message from Earth Command." The holographic display activated, showing Admiral Chen, no relation to Sarah, though the coincidence had led to some confusion in early reports. The Admiral's expression was both proud and concerned. "Captain Roth, Chief Chen," she nodded to them. "The Council has reviewed your latest reports. The success of your restoration project is unprecedented, but there are concerns about the level of integration between human and Lumini technology." Sarah felt the Lumini's consciousness stir with interest. They had encountered similar fears before, in ancient cycles of their history. Species that discovered their gateways often struggled with the choice between separation and synthesis. Captain Roth straightened in her chair. "Admiral, with respect, what we've achieved here goes beyond simple technological integration. We're not just fixing damaged space, we're evolving, both species together. The Lumini's quantum consciousness and human innovation complement each other perfectly." "That's exactly what concerns some council members," the Admiral replied. "There are those who fear we're losing our humanity, becoming something other." Sarah stepped forward. "Admiral, may I?" At the captain's nod, she continued. "What makes us human isn't our limitations, it's our ability to grow beyond them. The Lumini didn't ask us to stop being human. They invited us to become more than we were, while keeping everything that makes us who we are." Through their shared consciousness, the Lumini added their own perspective, which Dr. Patel translated for the Admiral's benefit. "They say they chose to wait for us specifically. Not just any spacefaring race, but one that would understand the importance of balance between preservation and progress." The Admiral was silent for a long moment, considering. Around them, the restored quantum gateway pulsed with gentle light, a testament to what two species could achieve together. "There's something else you should know," the Admiral finally said. "We've detected temporal distortions in the Andromeda Galaxy, similar to what the Void Makers created. Whatever they weren't confined to our galaxy." Sarah felt the Lumini's immediate response, not fear, but determination. Through their shared systems, they began calculating the possibilities, human mathematics merging with quantum probability states. "We'll need more ships," Captain Roth said, understanding where this was heading. "More crews willing to undergo the integration process. This isn't just about restoration anymore, it's about preparation." The Admiral nodded. "That's why I contacted you. Earth Command is prepared to authorize a full fleet of hybrid vessels, based on your modifications to the Helios Dawn. We'll need you to oversee the transformation process, teach other crews how to work with the Lumini consciousness. Cycle continues /new growth /shared future." Sarah smiled as the Lumini's excitement flowed through their neural link. "Admiral, I think this is exactly what both our species have been waiting for. Not just the healing of old wounds, but the prevention of new ones. A true partnership across the quantum divide." "There will be challenges," Captain Roth warned. "Not everyone will adapt to the integration as easily as our crew did. And we still don't fully understand the extent of the Void Maker's damage. But that's what makes us human, isn't it?" Sarah asked. "Taking on impossible challenges, pushing boundaries, finding ways to turn endings into beginnings." She felt the Lumini's agreement resonating through their shared consciousness. And now we don't have to do it alone. The Admiral's expression softened. Very well. I'll inform the Council that Project Quantum Synthesis is approved for full implementation. Captain Roth, your crew will spearhead the training program. Let's show the galaxy what humanity and the Lumini can achieve together. As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to look out at the restored gateway. Its crystalline structure caught the light of distant stars, refracting it into patterns that spoke of both quantum mathematics and human artistry. In its facets, she saw the future, not just of their two species, but of all those who might follow the paths they were rebuilding. The Helios Dawn had set out to mine hydrogen from the void between stars. Instead, they had found something far more precious, a way to bridge the gap between consciousness and quantum reality, between preservation and progress, between what was and what could be. As they prepared to enter the gateway, heading toward their next restoration project, Sarah felt the harmonious blend of human and Lumini consciousness flowing through the ship's systems. They had learned that the true power of humanity lay not in remaining unchanged, but in choosing how to change, and in finding allies who would help them become their best selves. The stars beckoned, and together, they answered their call.